Hello survivors and welcome to Survivors Guild, the only channel that calculates your odds of surviving killer clowns from outer space. So stay tuned till the end to find out your survival stats. I'm your host, GhostFake, a proud member of the Mutant Fam, a diverse community made up of fans of the drive-in. Today, we're taking a look at the 1988 Killer Clowns from Outer Space movie, Killer Clowns from Outer Space. But first, go ahead and entertain that thumbs up button with some shadow puppets, and hit that subscribe button in the nose. And make sure to blow up that share button. Now I hope you like finding a circus tent in the middle of the forest only to find out that it is no circus tent at all, because this movie is getting spoiled. Killer Clowns from Outer Space, written by Charles and Stephen Chiodo, and directed by Stephen Chiodo, starring Grant Cramer, Susan Snyder, John Allen Nelson, John Vernon, Michael Siegel, and Peter Licassi. Killer Clowns from Outer Space is about a small town that gets overrun by killer clowns from outer space. I'm not going to make a habit out of this, but I'm going to have to break the fourth wall again and mention that this is one of my first horror movies that I've ever seen. Having been released the year after I was born, I saw it on TV some years later, and didn't have the cognitive ability to realize that it was played for laughs, and instead it scared the hell out of me. And this movie, along with the Jaws series and Nightmare on Elm Street 2, are a few of the genre movies that brought young GhostFake into the realm of horror fandom. And I legit believe that horror became a valuable coping mechanism in my early life, as it has for countless others. We open up to Big Top Burger, where we get introduced to... Get out of the way, opening credits! You're blocking our view! Where we get introduced to Curtis Mooney, one of the town's police officers who is not excited about Friday nights. We then cut over to the top of the world where all the makeout artists are.
For all you makeout artists at the top of the world.
Where we meet Mike Tobacco and Debbie Stone. We then meet the Terenzi brothers who drive up in their ice cream truck, Paul and Rich, and touch us inappropriately using only their words.
And everyone's favorite frozen delight, the Licassi.
But the artist's life isn't for everyone, and the makeout artists tell them to get lost.
So you don't want any ice cream? Well, you're not getting any.
And we find out that those two dudes are Mike's best friends from school. Mike and Debbie prepare for a romantic night under the stars, when all of a sudden the stars come to them. Cut over to Farmer Gene Green, who is completely hornswoggled by what he just saw. Believing it to be Halley's Comet, and is psyched that it landed in his backyard. Believing it will make him rich, he heads out to check it out, just as Debbie intends to.
Come on, let's go check it out.
Oh, come on, no way.
Farmer Gene Green comes upon a giant circus tent in the middle of the forest, because if there is one thing humans wanted in the 80s, it was more circuses. Farmer Gene, recognizing how suspicious it is, voices his concerns to his dog Pooh, who doesn't say much back, and continues looking for the ticket booth. But Pooh finds out the hard way that despite 4 years of clown college, these clowns must moonlight as dog catchers just to make a living. Farmer Gene, finding his dog missing, oh, that sentence made my heart seize, takes his frustration out on the tent, which turns out to not be made out of cloth. But when he tries to tear it apart with his bare hands, he gets an electrical shock that knocks him down. But just then, Jumbo shows up to cheer him up, and cheers Farmer Gene directly into our meat bank at deposit number 1. We cut over to the police precinct, where these two punks are being brought in by Mooney, and we get introduced to Dave Hansen, one of the other officers, who suggests that the punks should have just stayed on campus to drink, before Mooney assaults them. And then Dave and Mooney play a game of good cop, bad cop.
Now, if you're gonna book them, do it according to procedure. Or I swear, Kurt, you and that badge of yours will be history.
We cut back over to Debbie and Mike, who is definitely appropriating culture.
If instinct serve chief, correct? Path lie that way.
As they set out on foot to find that comet, when they too find a circus tent. Debbie wants to leave, but Mike wants to check it out. They find an entrance and head in, and Mike tries to convince Debbie that the reason it's so bizarre on the inside is because it's part of a European trend. They trek deeper into the circus tent only to find out that it's no circus tent at all, and Debbie realizes that the shooting star they were after is exactly what they are in.
The shooting star!
What are you talking about?
The shooting star we went to go look for, we are in it!
Just then they hear someone, or something, approaching and they try to hide. They enter into a room with popcorn and cotton candy, and Mike tries to show her that it's just cotton candy.
Yes, it is. Look.
Nothing to see here, but he reveals that this cotton candy is human flavor. So not counting Gene, this means that we've got deposits 2 through 12 into our meat bank, followed immediately by deposit number 13 being brought in by Rudy. And when the clown is distracted, Mike and Debbie realize that the 13th deposit is a friend of theirs, which causes Mike to drop something, and then the clown drops something, that being what it was doing, to pick up a popcorn gun and shoot at the 2 fleeing humans. But this is no ordinary popcorn, and when Mike and Debbie get away, Rudy and Spiky get their tracking pooch to help them find the 2 humans. Mike commits vehicular assault, and the 2 of them get away. And as they contemplate what they should do next, the clowns start making their way into town. Mike and Debbie get to the precinct to tell Dave all about what they saw. Dave is willing to hear them out, being Debbie's ex and all, but Mooney thinks that they are full of bullshark. Debbie introduces Dave to Mike, who is uncomfortable about them being at the top of the world together, and Mooney recognizes Mike and is uncomfortable that he's friends with the Terenzis.
I know you, you little fart. You hang out with the Terenzi brothers.
Dave agrees to go with them, in spite of how insane it all sounds.
Go ahead, Dave. Make a dummy out of yourself. But you're not gonna make a dummy out of me.
We cut over to this dude who plays hard to entertain when he comes across a puppet show in the park. And the puppets show him what happens to people who think no means yes. Before Spiky pops up out of the booth and turns this dude into deposit number 14, into our meat bank. We cut over to this here drugstore and this here Mr. Myers, and these 2 meat bank deposits, numbers 15 and 16. We cut back over to Mike, Debbie, and Dave when we learn that Dave has no intention of bringing Debbie along to find the interstellar circus tent. And we also learn that he still has feelings for her, which must be real awkward for Mike. Flash over to this lady who is sipping wine and wearing see-through clothes, when she gets a visit from a few clowns delivering a pizza before Shorty delivers her into the meat bank at deposit number 17. And then this lady who receives a Valentine from Fatso, and then, I'll admit I'm assuming, gets deposited into our meat bank at number 18. We cut over to Mike, Dave, and Debbie, where Debbie is getting dropped off at her house, and dropped out of the movie for the longest shower in human history. Mike and Dave arrive at where the unidentified circus object used to be, and the huge crater that it left in the ground. And despite that gaping hole, Dave doesn't believe Mike and places him under arrest. We cut back into town where the clowns are continuing to wreak havoc, when Shorty rides up to this biker bar on his hog, when one of the bikers, who sees fit to bully a potential child, destroys Shorty's bike, prompting Shorty to defend his honor.
Can I beep the horn?
Shorty knocks this guy down a peg or two when he knocks the guy's block off.
What are you gonna do? Knock my block off?
Knocking this guy into the meat bank at deposit number 19, and causing the other bikers to scatter. We cut over to Big Top Burger for an unusually tense scene, in which Jumbo tries to lure this little girl out to her almost certain doom, but is thwarted when her mom stops her.
Back here, young lady. You're not going anywhere till you finish your food.
Meanwhile, Mike and Dave pull up to the top of the world makeout spot where it appears that everyone vacated the premises, leaving their cars and belongings. Dave gets out to investigate only to validate Mike and Debbie's claims when he discovers cotton candy all over the place. Now, we don't know exactly how many people were taken from this makeout spot, but we will get a count later in which they will be included. Cut over to Curtis Mooney, who is getting calls about the clowns, but believes it to be some elaborate town-wide prank, and does the only logical thing to do when you feel like the town is pranking you: drink. But then gets a call from Mr. Myers before he hears him get deposited into our meat bank at deposit number 20.
Mr. Myers?
We cut over to this dude driving erratically down the road before Slim pulls up alongside him in his invisible car. Is there anything that these clowns can't do? And uses it to run this dude off the road and into our meat bank at deposit number 21. Meanwhile, Debbie is at home getting ready to take her super long shower, and we then get confirmed that this popcorn is no ordinary popcorn. We cut over to Jumbo, who is planting some of that popcorn in the dumpster outside of Big Top Burger, only for this dude to let his curiosity get the best of him, before the clown-infested dumpster gets the best of him, dumpster diving him into our meat bank at deposit number 22. We then cut over to Slim, who is impressing this group of people at the bus stop with some pretty damn impressive shadow puppets. Whoa, that's pretty damn impressive! Mike and Dave drive by and spot the Greatest Showman, but Dave decides to watch the show rather than save those people. The clown turns his impressive shadow puppets into something impressive carnivorous and chomps down on these people, adding them into his popcorn bag at deposits number 23 through 27. Now here's the thing, based on the sounds that this popcorn is making, these people aren't dead yet. However, we never see anyone come back from being cotton candy cocooned or popcorned, so these people definitely end up as meat bank deposits. And it's not exactly clear what the popcorn is supposed to be. Here it appears to be trapped people, but soon we'll see that the popcorn stuck to Debbie's shirt turns into baby clown snake things. Either way, I bet this popcorn tastes like crap. Anyway, Mike hits the gas despite Dave being in the driver's seat in an attempt to run over the clown. But the clown avoids the vehicular assault by jumping straight up. They call it into Mooney, asking him to call in the state police as reinforcements. But Mooney, who is way smarter than them, isn't going to fall for their tricks to get him to quit, so he ends the chat. Just then, Mike spots his friends and decides to go get them to take him to pick up Debbie, and convinces them to help the only way he knows how.
Does she have any roommates?
Yes, she's got two. She's got two beautiful roommates with big boobs.
We cut back over to Mooney, who gets a visit from Jumbo, who breaks Mooney's law, and Mooney puts handcuffs on him. But Jumbo is an escape artist and slips out of those hands no problem. Mooney takes Jumbo to the cell and attempts to knock him out with his flashlight, but Jumbo doesn't like that, and uses his party blowout toy to knock Mooney out. Dave gets back to the precinct just in time for a game of Blue's Clues. Oh man, this game is confusing! But when Dave can't find Mooney, he finds those two dudes that Mooney arrested for drinking in the park. Just more cotton candy. Cotton candying these dudes into the meat bank at deposits number 28 and 29. Dave heads back out to call for help, but is surprised when he runs into Jumbo, who has turned Mooney into a ventriloquist dummy.
But you're not gonna make a dummy out of me!
I see what you did there. And after the clown uses Mooney to deliver its message.
Don't worry, Dave. All we want to do is kill you.
It ditches the dummy into our meat bank at deposit number 30. The clown then sets its sights on Dave, and Dave sets his sights on the clown and begins shooting at it. And when he lands a shot right on the clown's nose, the clown then self-destructs in a stunning example of 1980s special effects. Dave then calls in backup from the state police. We cut over to Mike and the Terenzi brothers, who are making fun of Mike's claims while making their way to Debbie's house. But when they turn the corner, they see a smorgasbord of meat bank deposits. Starting with these two, way back here, we've got deposits 31 and 32. Then we've got this one getting tossed out of the window and placed by 5 more, making deposits 33 through 38. This is 39. These are 40, 41, and 42. We then get 43 and 44 right here, and 45 way in the background back there. And then this dude under the car becomes deposit number 46, which is enough to get Mike and the Terenzis to get out of there. We then cut back over to Debbie, who is finishing up the hours-long shower that took her out of the movie for 45 minutes, when all of a sudden she gets attacked by killer clown snakes? Whatever these things are, they appear to have hatched from that popcorn. She fights them off using hairspray, kicks, and shower heads, before trying to get the hell out of the bathroom. And just in the nick of time, Mike shows up to save her.
Debbie, it's Mike, open up!
Mike?
Debbie!
But it turns out that it was Slim the entire time. She ditches the door and runs to the window, but finds clowns waiting for her there too. She backs into Slim, who then puts her into a balloon for safekeeping. Mike and the Terenzi show up just in time to see the clowns escape in their car, and they give chase. And when they pass Dave, he joins in as well. And when Paul thinks that they are getting pulled over, he forces Rich to stop the truck, causing Dave to slam into them. The four of them jump into the ice cream truck and head towards the local amusement park, believing that that is where the clowns were headed. We jump over to the amusement park and this here security guard who watches as all the clowns step out of their vehicle, before asking them what they are planning to do with all those pies, boys.
What are you going to do with those pies, boys?
Before pieing his way into our meat bank at deposit number 47. The four dudes show up and head into the crazy house to save Debbie. As they trek through the crazy house, they speculate about where the clowns came from.
Maybe they're just cruising through the galaxy and stopped here for a bite to eat.
Up until they lose the Terenzis down a trap door, and they land into a ball pit next to some face huggers. A sentient onion on TikTok threw out that maybe those balls are actually eggs.
Are you Debbie's roommate?
We cut back over to Mike and Dave, who enter into the cotton candy cocoon cache. Alright, we've got, as best I can see, and assuming that these rows are only 2 deep, 23 on the top, 45 on the row below that, including the sides, 34 below that, and 33 on this bottom area. Now I think that that's a generous counting, however we need to subtract any cotton candy cocoons that we counted earlier in the movie. Say that 5 times fast. So 135 total, minus the 37 cocoons that we counted earlier in the movie, leaves us with 98 deposits into the meat bank, which means that these cocoons count as deposits number 48 through 145. There are some hidden cocoons in front of the balloons, which gives us about 14 more deposits, getting us to 159. And add to that about 8 balloons. We've then got deposits 160 through 167. But just then, Chubby enters the room and shows us what happens with the cotton candy cocoons. And when Chubby leaves, the two heroes find Debbie's balloon and break her out of it. The 3 of them get pursued by clowns as they attempt to find an exit, leaving a couple dead clowns in their wake, before finally arriving at the boss level. They find themselves surrounded by all sorts of killer clowns from outer space before Paul and Rich drive their ice cream truck through the wall and stop the clowns by pretending to be the great and powerful JoJo.
I am the great and powerful JoJo. I command you to stop. Do not hurt them. Let them go.
This gives Mike, Dave, and Debbie the opportunity to escape, and the group piles into the ice cream truck, and go on to never ask questions about the heinous acts that the Terenzi brothers have engaged in. It's at this point that something gets the clowns' attention, and then they vacate the room when the real JoJo, also known as Clownzilla, enters the room. Dave ushers everyone away from the ice cream truck, but the Terenzis refuse to leave it because it's a rental.
We can't, it's rented!
Which didn't stop them from driving it through a wall. And then the other 3 look on in horror as Paul and Rich get tossed into our meat bank at deposits 168 and 169. No? Clownzilla turns his attention to the people that didn't just explode in that ice cream truck, and Dave tells Mike and Debbie to get out of there while he distracts JoJo. Mike and Debbie escape the spaceship just before it begins taking off. While Mike unloads his pistol into Clownzilla before he picks him up. Dave then remembers his training from the academy, that as long as you have your badge, you have a weapon, and uses the pin on his badge to pop Clownzilla's nose, causing it to self-destruct, which in turn destructs the entire Killer Clown spacecraft, exploding Paul and Rich and Dave into our meat bank at deposits 168, 169, and 170. No? Mike and Debbie mourn the loss of their friends, and a crap load of locals, when they hear the faint whistle of a falling object, which turns out to be the clown car containing Dave, Paul, and Rich. Paul and Rich explained that they hid in the ice cream freezer to survive the explosion.
But I saw you guys get blown up in the ice cream truck.
We hid in the freezer with the ice cream.
Yeah. Anybody want a dipsicle?
Right. Debbie asks if it is over, and Dave, Mike, and Debbie look into the skies and get hit in the face with pies. And the movie ends. So now, to find out, what are your chances of suffering survivor's guilt? This is where we take a look at our main characters and the death that surrounds them to determine your odds of surviving this movie. We start off our meat bank deposits with the poor lonely farmer Gene Green at deposit number 1, followed by whoever is in these cotton candy cocoons at deposits 2 through 13. We then get this dude enjoying a highly suspicious and highly inappropriate puppet show at deposit number 14. We then get these 2 customers at deposits 15 and 16, this wine lady at deposit 17, this lady at deposit number number 18, and then the biker bully at deposit number 19. Mr. Myers gets deposited at number 20, Road Rager comes in at number 21, Dumpster Diver dives in at number 22, and this group waiting for the bus waits all the way into our meat bank at deposits 23 through 27. Those two punks who didn't really do anything wrong innocent their way into our meat bank at deposits 28 and 29, with Mooney getting probed the old-fashioned way into deposit number 30. We then add all those cocoons during the clown parade at deposits 31 through 46, followed by this security guard getting pied into deposit number 47. We then add in the rest of the cocoons and balloons in the clown spaceship, which account for deposits 48 through 167. Now let's take a look at our survivors. We've got Mike, Debbie, Dave, and the Terenzis, Paul and Rich, which means that out of a total of 172 characters, only 5 survive, giving you a 2.9% chance of surviving this movie. Given those odds, which killer clown would take a comedically dark turn on your life? Let me know in the comments below. And if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of my future videos. And if you like what we do here at Survivors Guild, consider buying me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/survivorsguild. Alright guys, as always, thanks, and don't die.
Welcome back, video creeps. What up, guys?
What up? Welcome to my channel, Video Creep. Make sure you hit subscribe